What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of Podern Nerd. On today's show, we'll be talking about Marvel Phase 4. And joining me from Jarriot Gaming, that streams on twitch.tv/Dace Man and Friends on Wednesday, and then stream on his own Twitch channel of the other days, Mr. Jarrett Edelman.
Oh, what's up? And yeah, stream whenever I want, which means never.
That's how we do it over at Dace Man and Friends. But we're going to be talking about Marvel Phase 4 today, and I'm excited because, in theory, we should already be ankles deep into this phase, but Corona has obviously screwed up the entire year. So we'll roll right into it. We're going to talk first about Black Widow. It was supposed to release back in May. It's now pushed to November 6th, if that will actually happen or not.
Yeah, depends on the Corona. I mean, depending on that, they might just release it on Disney Plus, like they've done with a few other things. But
I feel like they're too arrogant to do that. I want them to, but I feel like they're too arrogant because they know it's an easy billion.
I mean, they're arrogant enough to reopen up Disney World, so
That's true. That's true. So Black Widow was supposed to be our first film after Spider-Man Far From Home, which was the bridge between Phase 3 and Phase 4. So Spider-Man Far From Home, for those of you, if you live under a rock, kind of bridged the gap of what happened after Endgame and the big finale of the Infinity War.
It came with a heavy weight. Like the whole depression that the world was in and how people were coping.
Yeah,
their younger brothers were now their older brothers, and their older brothers were now the younger brothers.
And essentially, Peter had PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
So he's trying to cope in a world where, up until that point, he was so, eager to be an Avenger, and now he's so reluctant to be one.
Oh, yeah, he now wants to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that Tony wanted him to be in the beginning, instead of wanting to be the hopeful Avenger that he now realizes comes with a heavy burden.
Yeah, so we were able to follow Spider-Man's journey there. It's kind of a bridge because it does tie into the Infinity Saga because it's the aftermath, direct aftermath actually. But it also sets up hey, there's going to be a future. There's still a need for heroes at this point. Now, the weird thing is the next film that was slated was Black Widow, which is in theory, it's called Phase 4. We'll get into why it actually pertains to future films in a way. But essentially, it takes place between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, and following the Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow on what she did when she had to go into hiding after stopping T'Challa, getting Bucky and Cap. So
maybe they'll just tell us why she got platinum hair and nobody knows why she was blonde.
Yeah, and then slowly went back to blonde or whatever the strawberry thing that was going on in Endgame. But realistically, it was going to be her own solo outing, which is probably long overdue considering she made her debut in Iron Man 2. But when it comes to these characters, she's going back to where she began, but during, between Captain Civil War and Infinity War. What were your thoughts on this? All we've gotten were a few previews. How do you feel about the Black Widow film?
So in the beginning, when I first was looking at it, especially after Endgame, what happened there? I was like, well, what's the point of this movie? What's the point of showing us this character? When we know that there's no future after that movie. What's the point of showing us somebody who's no longer going to be there?
Yeah.
And I was looking at an interview with Kevin Feige. And he was like, well, this isn't an origin story, but it's not an origin story for who you think. So from that, I took away the fact that maybe someone else. I think it's her sister in air quotes because she doesn't have an actual sister, but someone who shared the red room with her is going to become or take over a mantle that she's going to pass that baton over to somebody else, and maybe that's their origin story into this.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that the way they're teeing up this movie is the Black Widows are essentially a society, kind of like the Nova Corps, or Nova Corps being the easiest comparison since it's in Marvel. Nova is a part of the Nova Corps. And from the sounds of it, there's at least 3 Black Widows in this movie alone. So there's Florence Pugh, who's kind of a sister figure to Natasha Romanoff, and was trained in the Red Room that you were referencing. And then there's also Rachel Weisz, who was a seasoned spy trained in the Red Room as a Black Widow, and is the mother figure to the Romanoff and Belova character. So,
Yeah,
how
I
do you
mean,
feel about Black Widow being like a society or like a secret force?
it sounds to me a lot like the Winter Soldier program. You know, like how Bucky was the one, and then they created five more.
Hmm.
But it sounds exactly like something that the Cold War would bring about. Like, oh, let's train these young ones without family
I
and
think
make
it.
them of death.
I think it's interesting that given you get a lot of origin stories or a lot of things happen because of this one moment in Marvel history, and in the cinematic universe, one thing that seems to trigger a lot of the events in the like present and future is the super soldier serum that Cap got.
Yeah,
They related the Banner incident that they were trying to recreate the same serum. And these are things you normally don't get in movies where they're trying to tie it back. Well, they made Cap, and ever since then, anything that was like super soldier, secret assassin related was because they were trying to recreate what Cap was.
which is
And
crazy to think because Red Skull was actually the original.
exactly, like the first one was a failure, and you got really lucky with the second one, and then never were able to recreate that again.
Well, you got that old Captain America. I can do this all day. Nope, nobody else has that heart, man.
Yeah, you don't get America's ass on any other man.
I
But
wish.
but
Wish I had
speaking
friends.
of Captain America, there is an equivalent, like a direct equivalent in this movie, who was played by Stranger Things' David Harbour. The Russian super soldier counterpart named Alexei Shostakov, or the Red Guardian, who was the father figure to Natasha and Belova. So, how do you feel about a communist Captain America?
Sounds like a Captain America needs right now. But I mean, it sounds exactly like we're having a Russian spinoff of what Avengers could have been. Like, oh, say like we weren't in America located, we were located in Russia. Like, he would be Captain America. He would be what the ideals stood for Russia.
Hmm.
But in the movie, it doesn't seem to go that way. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to take it. I never actually read up on the Red Guardian, so his character is actually a mystery to me.
Unfortunately for me too, a lot of this Phase Four, it's all brand new stuff to me.
Yeah,
I can't honestly say that I'm a huge Black Widow fan. She just was happened to be in things that I read.
it's very true. I never actually enjoyed her.
Yeah, and again, she was always like a side character in most of the main stories I read. And speaking of side characters, one person who's returning, who has had kind of a role throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is William Hurt as Thaddeus Ross. The one thing that I'm very interested in this character, because they keep bringing him back, and I understand why, because he's the Secretary of State at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll do Red Hulk? Maybe not in this movie, but Phase Four.
Well, you know me, loving the Hulk. I in some ways hope that they do a Red Hulk,
Mm-hmm.
but I hope if they do anything with the Hulk, I hope they somehow revitalize the Abomination
It'd be nice.
because that, even though no one likes to talk about the Edward Norton Hulk, he was actually a really good antagonist.
Oh, for sure. And the only like mention is there's like that you know I remember when Marvel did the one shots.
Yeah,
They were like those little 5 minute clips. There was a mention of him joining the Abomination, joining the Avengers between Coulson and Sitwell, and then
really.
eventually the whole after credit scenes at the end of Incredible Hulk with Iron Man or Tony Stark talking to Thaddeus Ross
Yeah,
was an elaborate plan by Coulson and Sitwell to get Stark to have Ross sour on the idea of the Abomination being on the Avengers. Like, hey, how can we possibly piss off Ross to the point where he'll stop pushing this?
I saw something else, or like I was reading. I forget where the article was, but it was about how Thunderbolt Ross was going to create the Thunderbolts,
Mm-hmm.
and how since what's his name, the Abomination, you have the leader, and everybody else on the raft, like they were going to start to like do a Suicide Squad esque spin-off series with them.
That'd be interesting to get a lot of like not the B league people, but essentially.
I mean, like I feel like they could like somehow tie that in with like doing what they're doing with their TV shows, and like somehow tying their TV shows into like an episode of something else instead of doing what the Netflix series did, where you had to watch the entire series to get to them to like find their mashup series.
Yeah,
There could be a mashup series somewhere along in here where it's just like, hey, we're dropping this one episode.
yeah. The other part, because we're talking about Phase 4 and beyond in this conversation of Podern Nerd, and talking about Thunderbolt Ross makes me think of another character that was kind of introduced in Black Panther. That, like, maybe if you can't get William Hurt to keep doing this, maybe Everett Ross, which was played by, oh, I can't think of his name. Martin Freeman? Is that his name? The only white guy in
Oh, yeah,
Black
yeah.
Panther that wasn't the bad guy. Um,
What do you call it? The Hobbit character, right?
yeah, if
Okay.
he might be the Red Hulk.
Oh, that would be interesting. I would like that.
Yeah, he would be the MCU version of the Red Hulk rather than doing Thunderbolt Ross. Even though everything that he's doing as the Secretary of State makes him a perfect, like, come up, like a retribution type story. Like, basically him turning full circle and being the people he's been chasing down for 4 or 5 movies.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, he isn't that obsessed Ross that we know from the comics,
No.
where he hates Banner to a like no end. He hates Banner until he becomes the Red Hulk in the comics. I mean, at this point, he seems to like no longer care too much about Banner, even though I'm sure he's still in the back of his mind. He's not super like, no, at all costs, take this guy down.
Yeah, because I mean, he pretty much made a passing line in Civil War of like, "Do you know where Thor and Banner are? Because if I'd lost the 20
Two
ton nuts
nuclear
or whatever,
weapons.
yeah." So
Yeah.
he's not as aggressive after them, but he's kind of been like a roadblock in the whole vigilante story that's going on. But I
Oh,
just thought it
good.
was interesting to talk a little bit to that character because he is something important in the comics, but not necessarily as important in the MCU.
Yeah, I hope they expand on his role a bit more.
So,
He would be a great character.
oh, for sure, because he's like, you have Banner, who's kind of wimpy. Not that he's wimpy. He's a scientist, and to have the Red Hulk, who's essentially a war general. Come
Yeah.
on, it'll be different. He probably would have interacted better with people like Cap. I don't know how he would react if Captain Marvel is going to lead the Avengers or Spider-Man leaves the Avengers.
I mean, in this sense, I mean, even if you bring back the Hulk, though, it's not going to be the same tendencies ahead because now he's considered the MCU version of the Hulk, which is closest to the Smart Hulk, who was just a combination of Banner's intelligence and Hulk's strength.
Yeah. So I feel like with the end game, they pretty much took out Hulk as we know it. So
Yeah,
he
they
would be a
took out.
sideline character most of the time.
Yeah, they took away my favorite like World Breaker or anything else like where Maestro, any of his like alter egos, where he just becomes incredibly destructive. They've taken care of that.
Yeah, which sucks. I mean, the closest thing you got was the Ragnarok with the Sakaar,
Yeah.
and even that was kind of watered down because in theory, I think they compared him to pretty much like a teenager at that point. That's why he was using some word, or maybe like a toddler, because he was using more words and stuff.
Yeah, he was someone who was just starting to learn how to talk again as the Hulk,
Hmm.
because Banner never let him out, and we let him out for 2 years. He was able to age. I think it was like 7 years for every year. I think it was
Hmm.
like 14.
Yeah, which makes sense. Before we move on to the next movie that was slated, well, actually, we'll move on to the first TV show because we're going to try to go chronologically.
Okay.
Um, the one thing that I really wanted addressed, and I don't know if they'll do it in this film, and they don't have to because it's Marvel and they can do whatever they want. The
Yeah.
whole returning the stones to the moment they were taken.
Yeah.
The Soul Stone is a very interesting take on that because you trade a person for the stone, and if you're putting the stone back, do you get the person back?
So this was actually answered by the Russos. They already said they stated that no version of anybody who died will actually be brought back because it would take away from their death.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Like, it'd be really shitty to bring back Tony Stark immediately after killing him in Endgame in, like, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse. But at the same time, I feel like with Tony dying and Cap getting his, like, good farewell, hers was not, was it was severely overshadowed. because
Oh,
like when they threw Gamora off in Infinity War, it was like, oh, that one's rough. And then the
oh,
Peter one, I think, overshadowed that when he was dusted and he's crying to Tony Stark.
yeah.
I was thinking that if you there's a lot around that situation of returning the Soul Stone that to me needs to be answered. A, Cap will see the Red Skull. Like, how does he
That'd be
react
a
to that?
great. Oh, I wanted to see that interaction.
Yeah, like, holy shit! Last time I saw you was like 1945, and you teleported, and this is where you've been all that time.
What happened to your legs?
Yeah, you float now. What the hell? You don't seem as angry or Nazi-ish.
Right.
But the whole Soul Stone concept is if he returns it before she jumps, wouldn't he just save her? Or like they did a number on the timeline.
So that's the whole thing, man. You can't mess with time. Time is too complex for people to sit there and go, you know what? That would work. That would work. That would work. That wouldn't work.
Yeah, which to me, the whole Endgame time heist scenario, and you can stop me if you think I'm talking out my ass, but this is a perfect time to bring in Kang.
Oh my God, no, that would be great.
Yeah, like you totally went back, and Captain America specifically, because he went back and stayed in 19 whenever he went back to visit Peggy.
Yeah, which is still really weird because if you think about it, he stayed with Peggy. They already confirmed that he was at Peggy's funeral,
Mm-hmm.
which means that like he's been constantly in this timeline, which means that his niece, he's still got with his niece.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you got some you got some explaining to do there, Cap.
Get some incense on your face or incense on your face, Cap. You need to point that out. Maybe that's why Bucky laughed. He's like, I've talked to old Steve. You have no idea what you've done.
Yeah.
But any final thoughts out of the Black Widow movie? What you're looking forward to? I'm personally looking forward to Taskmaster, but
Oh my God, yeah, I can't. I honestly can't wait. And I know through one of the previews they showed him kicking up Cap the shield, like Cap kicks up his shield,
mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I can't wait to see if where. I hope they don't kill him or defeat him. I want him to come back consistently because he's such a strange threat to have to deal with.
See, that was I had the same thing with Claw. I loved the fact that Claw escaped like a weasel from Ultron and then
Yeah,
showed back up in Black Panther. I was a little disappointed that they just killed him. It's like that's a character that could just be a nuisance to be a nuisance. Maybe not the
and
main level villain,
wait,
but
Andy Sedagus, right? That's his name.
yeah,
He's an incredible actor.
yeah.
But I
I
think he's going to direct. He's directing something now in the MCU.
is he maybe doing some of the shows?
No, I think he might. I forget which one he's doing. Hold on, let me try to look it up.
Okay, while you look that up, Black Widow is in the books. We're going to move on to the first Disney Plus TV series that we should be experiencing soon, but unfortunately, COVID struck again. And that's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a series that will follow Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, and Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, as they cope in a post-Avengers Endgame world, and who will take up the mantle of Cap. And what we found out in the trailer was, surprise, surprise, it's probably neither of them. So the cast is pretty straightforward. It's Bucky, it's Falcon. There's also they're bringing back Baron Helmut Zemo, and from the trailer that we were given a year ago, it kind of looks like he's going to resemble the comic book character version, which is great. We're going to bring back Emily Van Camp as Sharon Carter, and we'll hopefully get some hints of why Cap made out with his niece. And then the militaristic successor to Captain America that was created by the U.S. government, John Walker. So that's they basically Cap does the symbolic handoff to Falcon at the end game, and the trailer has shown us that the American government went, nope, we got Johnny.
Yeah. I can't wait. This is gonna be like. There's not gonna be a proverbial bad guy. This is gonna be a TV series about a protagonist and antagonist.
Easily.
Like it's not gonna be like, oh, we're taking on Hydra and trying to get the last remnants out of Shield. No, no, no. This is gonna be about like, hey, Cap gave me this, U.S. government's gonna go, hey, I don't care.
Exactly. And because it's picking up right at the end of Endgame, and it's just kind of going to follow them in this post Endgame world. And aside from what we've seen in Spider-Man, which really is just following Spider-Man, we don't know how the world is, the Avengers, more or less, are going to react. Because Sam is an Avenger.
Oh, without a doubt.
And Peter kind of was dismissive of the whole Avengers thing and wasn't really like talking like, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this. But it'll be interesting because these two, what is Sam's mission now? The last mission Sam had was tracking down Bucky. They finished that, and then all Thanos showed up, so he kind of just got swept into that. There really is no next mission for these two as of right now.
Well, no, I think the next mission is going to be trying to help Bucky through the fact that he now has to cope with the fact that he's done these things. He's no longer this person. Like he did a little bit of that, I guess, in like Wakanda when he was sitting there like trying to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's got to get rehabilitated back into the regular world. Like this is definitely going to be something about see like how it's no longer it's not Captain America and the Winter Soldier. It's definitely still the Falcon. So this TV series, like even though he might have gotten handed the mantle of Captain America, he is definitely not going to embrace it for a little bit. Like they're going to have to fight their own internal battle.
Oh, for sure. And I think another thing that'll be interesting too is the reactions to a black man becoming Captain America. Because I mean, they're obviously outside of the film itself, in the real world, there are many feelings on a black guy being Captain America. It'll be interesting if the show tackles that.
True. I mean, it'll be weird because, I mean, it'll be interesting to a world outside of this movie, like the real world, for those who've never actually read the comics. But for those who have read the comics, I mean, this isn't an outside. This isn't just something that they threw in. This is something that's been in the comics before, where he's taken on the mantle. Both these characters have actually taken on the mantle of Captain America after Cap's supposed either retirement or death.
Yep. Yeah, I think that the first one is when Cap is assassinated in the original run of Civil War. Bucky picks it up.
Yes.
And then when something happens, I think in the Marvel relaunch, where Cap becomes an old man and is pretty much like a director of Shield at that point, Sam is the Cap, which both are fine. I mean, I always don't like the fact that like these two are established characters in and of themselves. Like there's plenty of Falcon stories, there's plenty of Winter Soldier stories, but it would be interesting. And apparently, it's going to be 6 episodes. And they budgeted each episode for about $25 million each. Oh, so like they're making Endgame, but like 6 hours long. So it'll be interesting. Go ahead.
I love TV series because I feel like I get more out of them. I feel like I get more story, so that's definitely where I like. Don't get me wrong, I love movies, but the TV series is where it's going to be at for me because it's definitely going to be more storytelling.
Oh, for sure. And now they're doing it rather than like, oh, you have to have 23 episodes every time you do a TV series. It's like, no, we're going to give you 6 and we're going to give you the meat and the potatoes. Like, you're not going to get any of this filling stuff that we throw in on the side.
Well, did they say what the runtime is going to be? Are they going to be like hour-long episodes?
I want to hope that they are, but at the same time, I thought The Mandalorian was going to be, and it wasn't.
That is true.
So I really don't think they're putting time restraints on any of them. I think they're just going to let the story tell itself on however long it takes to tell the story. Because The Mandalorian was never. I think the first one was an hour, but then the rest of them varied between like 25 to 45 minutes, and it was never consistent.
Oh no, it was just like, hey, here's the chapter. Like I guess like in books, you know how like chapters some are long, some are short.
Yeah.
I guess that's how we're actually looking at it now. We're not looking at it anymore as like, oh, we got to make a 40-minute episode every time.
Yeah, and they don't have to worry about like, oh, we have to have advertisers in the middle of it. No, it's just you're going to run for the 40 minutes. But not too much. Yeah, not too much is known about the series. We were supposed to have it by now. By the time this episode airs of Podern Nerd, we probably would have had this. But at the same time, all we know is that we're going to get Zemo back into the picture. So at some point, Zemo had to have escaped. It'd be interesting if he was snapped or not. So maybe he was snapped, and when he came back, he was in a cell. Like the cell moved, so then he was free, or whatever the hell the case may be.
Oh, true.
So it'll be interesting.
Is he gonna have the whole like, purple sock face thing?
They teased it in the trailer. They did like one of those like viral videos, and he was like, "Oh, I'll be seeing you," and he puts that sock hood thing on. Um,
Cool.
it's definitely an interesting take on the Zemo character, because again, all Cap's characters all came from like the 1940s war.
Straight up.
Yeah, and they all survived and fought him in the future. Whatever. But I'm excited for this, and realistically, this is the one that I've been looking forward to the most, because it continues the story we've already been told. Whereas a lot of other things, and the next thing we're going to talk about is beginning new stories. Any thoughts on Falcon and the Winter Soldier before we move on?
Um, no, I'm excited and can't actually wait to dive in and see what we get more.
Sweet. So we're going to just keep cruising on. What was supposed to come out in September is now coming out in February of 2021, and that is The Eternals. Little is known about that, at least from me. I think Thanos was a part of the Eternals, or was like,
So Thanos is actually an Eternal. Throughout the comics, like the Eternals is the race that he derives from.
mm-hmm,
Thanos had the deviant gene, which is for these Eternals, is like say everybody kind of looks and acts pretty, but like he got a genetic difference where he got purple skin. Some of them get like tails. Like there's a whole bunch of different ones.
mm-hmm.
But he is an Eternal who just ended up with the deviant gene that gave him that weird ball sack chin.
Yeah, fucking grimace. Um, it it's an interesting cast. You have Kamal Nanjiani, who's he's a hilarious comedic actor. He's been in Silicon Valley. He's done a couple movies with Batista. Um,
And he got jacked for this.
yeah, and they're saying that he wanted. He was quoted as saying he wanted his performance to combine the wisecracking attitude of John McClane, with the look of his a Bollywood actor, and I can't say the name. Um, so he was kind of pulling from that. But you're also going to have Salma Hayek in this, and Angelina Jolie.
And Kit Harington, or nice Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and I think the character that Kit's playing was actually an Avenger at one point.
Oh, or that's what they believe he's going to turn into, the Black Knight,
Yeah.
which is really interesting because the sword he carries, if it draws blood, it kills him. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that is an interesting caveat.
But the main name of that entire thing is Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. Well, there's also another Game of Thrones actor, Richard Madden. He'll be playing Icarus.
Oh,
Yeah.
didn't even know that.
Then from Crazy Rich Asians, they're bringing in Gemma Chan, who will be playing Cersei.
Okay.
Uh, Kamal will be playing Kingo, who is an Eternal who is cosmic powered. I mean, that's what most of the descriptions of these people are.
I know. Well, right now they're not. They don't know where they're going with it just yet. I'm sure, or they do, and they're just not releasing it, so nobody sits there and tries to. Well, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, right. If you're a Walking Dead fan, one of the newest cast members to that franchise, Lauren Riddoff, will be debuting as Makari, who's she's a deaf American actress in real life, and she'll be playing an Eternal who's super fast. Brian Tyree Henry. He plays Paperboy in FX's Alfred, or in FX's Atlanta. Why did I say Alfred?
I do not know.
And he'll be playing Fastos. Salma Hayek will be playing Ajak. Leah McHugh, who I don't know who this one is.
Yes.
She will be playing Sprite, who is eternally young. That'll be awkward when she grows up and they do a sequel.
That's a fair point.
Unless they just film everything they want from her for the next 6 phases, and just like, this is always going to be a thing, or they kill her, one or the other.
So what they do with Stanley, just film all his cameos.
Yeah, exactly. Then you have Don Lee, who will play Gilgamesh. I don't know what he's from. Barry Coogan. He's been in films like Dunkirk and The Killing of a Sacred Deer. He'll be playing Druig. Angelina Jolie will be playing Thena. And then Kit Harington is playing Dane Whitman, which is the human warrior who wields a mystical sword. So again, I don't know too much about the Eternals. It's really, it's going to obviously give us some backstory, hopefully on Thanos, maybe the Infinity Stones and why they were created and that type of stuff. But I don't know much about it, so it's hard to talk to.
Yeah, no, I get that. I don't know too much about it either. The only thing I read up on was that when Josh Brolin was talking about his own character for Thanos, that he said he wants to do more movies, and I think they signed him for some more movies. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they were talking about bringing in a younger Thanos for like flashbacks in this movie of like a not super buffed Thanos. Like they actually have like concept designs of like a younger teenage Thanos who's not rocked out. Like he's not like super jacked. He's what you would consider, I guess, a normal physique.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite literally the only thing I knew. The only thing I know is that Kit Harington as the Black Knight with the sword that kill him, and a younger version of Thanos.
The question I'm kind of curious about this is if it's going to be. Well, here's the premise, so I could read that out, kind of give us a little bit of light. So, after an unexpected tragedy following the events of Avengers Endgame, the Eternals, an immortal race created by Celestials who have secretly lived on Earth for over 7,000 years, reunite to protect humanity from their evil counterparts, the Deviants. So, it's post Endgame. I'm going to assume with flashbacks to what's happened over the past 7,000 years. I'm kind of curious as to what the hell the unexpected tragedy is, unless they're going to immediately kill one of these people out the gate. Goodbye, Angelina Jolie.
Ooh, I wouldn't mind that. But no, I mean, well, they say they've been hiding on Earth the entire time, but Thanos just shows up and they still fucking hide.
That's what it sounds like. Unless they were
Did
all
they get
snapped.
snapped?
I mean, if you're Thanos and you can sense their presence, that's the first people I'd snap.
That's fair.
Um,
But like his presence would have been felt before he even got all of these. That's gonna be a plot hole they're gonna have to fill.
big time. And I'm wondering if they're going to actually use scenes from Endgame and Infinity War. Like, oh, this is happening in the background as
Oh,
an invasion's happening.
that would be cool.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm
MC
interested in
story.
this because Marvel really hasn't done a bad film yet.
I could argue that the Thor 1 and Thor 2 were not the greatest.
Oh, that's fair. That's absolutely fair considering what they did in Thor 3. It's like you could have did that the whole time. What the hell?
And why did you bleach his eyebrows?
Yeah, good point. Okay, you win. Next up on our list, as we keep cruising right along, was supposed to be Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It was supposed to come out February 12th, but got pushed back to May 7th. As you can see, the trend is everything's being pushed back one window, and that's really going to follow the first Asian superhero that's going to take up the big screen.
Yes.
The key part of that title that interests me is the Legend of the Ten Rings, because that is a theme that followed Tony through his arc from Iron Man 1 to Iron Man 3. And I'm really hoping they bring back Sir Ben Kingsley to explain what happened to Trevor.
Ooh.
Yeah, because the last time we heard, again, harking back to the Marvel one-shots that they don't do anymore, which is disappointing because they were fun,
Yes.
Trevor was kidnapped from that prison to go see the real Mandarin, who will be played by Tani Leung in this movie. So I'm very curious as to what happened. They should have some kind of interaction there. But Shang-Chi is a skilled martial artist, and that's pretty much all I know. Like I said, these conversations are going to be awkward because I don't know much about some of the characters they're introducing to us.
Well, he is a slightly like he's not a newer character because he was first I think like 1972, 1973 was when he first came in.
Mm-hmm.
But like he didn't become like a main staple until like 2007. Like he is a slightly newer character. His whole design is actually based off of Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how like most pop culture things base one character off Bruce Lee. Well, this is Marvel.
Obviously.
This is Marvel's nod to how great of a person Bruce Lee really was. But yeah, he's a newer character in the sense that like he's not like, oh, He's Thor. He's been here since the beginning. There's so much to go off of.
Big time. And not to mention, do you think he's going to fall into the hole of people comparing him to Iron Fist?
No,
Okay.
because he's not white.
Well, aside from the obvious.
I hope not. Because Iron Fist in himself is a great character that Netflix destroyed.
Yeah, they squandered that opportunity.
We're not going to touch on that.
Yeah.
But no, he's. I don't actually know what his power really actually is. I don't know if he's just a martial artist who is like Batman, to where he's just, I know everything. Oh wait, no, never mind. He gains the power to create countless duplicates of himself.
So he's like a multiple man?
I guess.
God, DC was not clever.
Would you say DC wasn't clever?
No, not at all.
No, actually, Marvel took a lot of their characters from DC.
So, looking at his handy-dandy Wikipedia page, his abilities are Master Martial Artist and Master of Chi, which Iron Fist is the Master of Chi. But formerly, he's apparently had powers and abilities of Spider-Man. He, I guess, had access to Pym particles at some point, and self-duplication, like you said. I wonder if they'll experience it, or they'll go into the self-duplication aspect during this movie.
That would be cool, since no other character right now has that kind of ability.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen it since X-Men: The Last Stand, which nobody likes that movie.
No. No. All right, we're staying phase 4. Okay, come on.
Phase 4. My bad. But there's not much on it. Production had begun. COVID, of course, stopped it because it stopped everything in the world. It's curious to see. It's interesting because Ten Rings has been an organization that's appeared through the MCU since its introduction in Iron Man 2008. And the leader, the Mandarin, would be introduced in the film with Tony playing the role. But again, I really want to see if they go into the Ben Kingsley portrayal when he was the imposter in Iron Man 3.
Oh, yeah.
That's, to me, when it comes to this movie, that's what I'm more interested in, is the Ten Rings legacy, because it's been there. It was in the background and lingering through all of the Iron Man movies, and then we never got that Iron Man versus the real Mandarin payoff that we all wanted.
Yeah.
Because that was a rumor of Iron Man 4. He was actually going to face the real Mandarin. But then Iron Man 4 didn't happen.
Actually, Thor is the fourth movie.
Yeah?
But I don't know. I'm wondering if you're either going to see him head into Shang-Long, or you're going to see the Hand at any point in this movie as well. Because those are two iconic areas. Definitely one for Chi and one for what Iron Fist has to go through with the Hand, which is like the martial artist demon world.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting. There's a little information. Corona has clearly screwed everything up. We probably would have had a trailer this weekend or for the Comic-Con weekend.
I mean, who said that we're not going to get one?
True. I'm sure they've shot some stuff. They're usually up on their game when it comes to this.
Yeah.
And that's to say, how do we know they're not filming in a country that's okay to film again? That realistically, I think the only place they can't film is freaking Georgia. But who knows?
Wait, really?
Yeah, a lot of the CW shows are back because they can shoot in Vancouver, and a lot of places have just enacted that whole thing that the NBA is doing with the bubble.
Okay.
So if you come into the bubble, you can't leave the bubble, and then you can finish your project, type thing.
That's smart.
Yeah,
but I hope it falls through.
The issue.
I hope it doesn't fall through.
The only issue that I keep hearing about is Georgia. Georgia has not resumed filming because it just keeps getting worse there, as of the time of this podcast. We're going to move right on, because again, it's kind of hard to speculate on characters we don't know too much about or have gotten too much information about. But one series that we have been talking about and we have established characters in is WandaVision. And Disney is adamant it's still coming out in 2020, which I'm shocked.
Yeah, because its original release date was actually supposed to be spring of 2021.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out right before Doctor Strange, because it's going to tie in with that.
Yeah.
As will the series Loki, but I think Loki is coming out after Doctor Strange because I'm going to guess there's plot things in Loki that will be unveiled in Doctor Strange or whatever, or teed up in Doctor Strange. But WandaVision is really going to follow Wanda Maximoff and Vision and living in like a sitcom world. It's interesting because as of Endgame, Vision's dead.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we're going to begin to see the mental breakdown of Wanda Maximoff and teeing up a light version of House of M.
Ooh, which is a great way to introduce the mutants.
Exactly. Um,
Uh, well,
I
looking at it, I mean, they tease her original costume.
Yep.
They tease the obnoxious headdress and the real skimpy red clothing.
Yeah, and filming began back in November of 2019. It's 6 episodes. Unfortunately, this filming got suspended in March due to the pandemic, but the production is expected to resume this month, or was supposed to, and still debut in December. The series will take place after the events of Avengers Endgame and eventually lead into Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness, which Wanda will also be in, so that we know that. And they're bringing back some other side characters that I thought were interesting. They're bringing back Randall Park and Kat Dennings, who will reprise the roles of Jimmy Woo and Darcy from Thor.
Yeah.
And they're bringing back a character from Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, as an adult version.
Okay.
So she was the child in the Captain Marvel version in the 90s. They're bringing back actress, they're using actress Kira Akbar. It's a trap. To portray this in the show. My interesting thought is, how are you going to pull in Darcy into this whole scenario? I can totally understand bringing in the Jimmy Woo character by Randall Park because he works for a government agency. And they can just say, hey, we need you to go there to pay attention to this. Darcy, though?
Well, she did work with, what's her name? I can't think of her name.
Jane Foster.
Jane Foster, yeah. I mean, there has to be some part of her who's picked up on something dealing with, I'm assuming there's some type of time travel or travel of some sort that she might be able to help with. Or she could be inside like a psychiatric area where Wanda is. Because that's what my thought was, that Wanda's going to be in some psychiatric rehabilitation center trying to get through her mental status. And since Darcy is somewhat of a scientist, she may be there to watch over her.
Which would be interesting, because at least at the end of Endgame, it seemed like she accepted that Vision had passed and was somewhat in the sane mind. So you would imagine that this WandaVision show is going to trigger something in her to make her descend into presumably madness that will begin warping reality and then drag in Doctor Strange.
Like, because, I mean, to an extent, I mean, hell, when you're faced in a life or death situation, you probably put a lot of those things on hold, and especially in Endgame when she goes, "You've taken everything from me." Like, I don't know if she's actually accepted it at this point, or if she's just holding it back, suppressing those emotions for time being until she explodes into this.
Yeah, well, that's what makes me interested to see what will be the trigger that sets her off. Because obviously, again, heading into this series, Vision's dead, but he is clearly heavily featured in this show because it's called WandaVision.
Looking at the IMDb, he's in all 6 episodes.
Which makes sense, especially if a lot of this series takes place in Wanda's head.
I mean, I feel like there's no reason that they can't bring back a version of Vision. Like, he's an android.
Oh, for sure. And Shuri was almost done up until the friggin' Thanos showed up. Like, she was cruising through it, and they had a plan. They just didn't get to finish the plan.
Well, and I don't know if you realize or watched, or not watched. I don't know if you saw, but I think in one of the Stark Expos, you see the original Human Torch android, which was used to make Vision in the comics.
Yeah,
could definitely. I mean, especially if Shuri has somewhat of his brain in Wakandan science, put him into that android again, and you have an all new Vision without the Mind Stone.
Yeah, and as you should.
There's a way to bring him back.
I'd be interested. I guess the thing I'm most interested in is how many, like, they tell you outright what characters are going to be in it, how many other characters they may bring in. Like, we've
Oh, true.
mentioned Shuri. I assume in episode 6, and this I'm going to be disappointed because it's a high expectation I have, Strange shows up. Like,
Yeah.
because they're going to have to tie this into the movie. They've said it's tied in the movie. Why the hell wouldn't Wong or Strange show up in the show at some point?
Uh, I don't know. I would hope so.
Yeah, I would think this, and then when we get to it, Loki would have a boatload of cameos because it's tying into a movie, and you really, it's an interesting experience and a hell of a gamble on Disney's part that you're going to make people watch a show to understand what's happening in a movie, and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's part of it's actually it's taking a leap of faith that the CW and DC didn't do with the Arrowverse and the movies.
Well, yeah, because DC was just, I want to be hard headed and not include a popular, already well established franchise. I'm
Yep.
going to make my own.
And instead decided, hey, let's give them a little bit of a little trinket in Infinite Crisis on Earth or whatever the crossover that was last year where they put in Ezra Miller.
That's all they put in.
Yep. They gave a little cameo to him that goes, I knew this was possible. And then Grant Gustin looked at him going, what? And then he just disappears.
Well, I mean, they did. I'm pretty sure they announced though that if when they do the Flash movie, if they ever get to it,
Mm-hmm.
the story arc for what was it? Why can't I? Flashpoint.
Yep.
That Grant Gustin is going to be in that as well. Whether or not it's a small or big role, I heard that there's a fact that he'll be in that movie.
Well, I would hope so. And they're also teasing that Michael Keaton will come back as the Batman for that.
That's true. I can't wait.
I know. As a comic book fan, this is the time to live.
Yeah, just don't do what you do with Justice League.
Yes. But WandaVision is set to come out in December, which I'm excited for. These are two characters that have kind of just been side characters in most of these movies. None of them have had their own outright, hey, this is the Wanda Maximoff show, or whatever the hell it is. So they've always just been in Avengers movies or ensemble casts. This will be their first time to step out in front of an audience and show what they can do, and I'm excited for it, to be honest. How about you?
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to see, because this, like, the 50s look is going to be great, and it's going to weirdly, in my opinion, I hope it deals with, like, mental illness, which will help a lot of people be able to cope with it, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we continue on into the world of Phase 4, we go into Doctor Strange's sequel, long overdue in my opinion, and the multiverse of, or the madness of multiverse of madness. God, I am tongue-tied. Yeah, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which was supposed to come out next spring, but they reshuffled things, and I don't think it's coming out till 2022 now.
Yeah, it's listed at March 25th, 2022.
Yeah, so now it's the end of Phase 4, which it's weird. The cool thing about the movie is there's the potential that they're bringing in Sam Raimi, who did Spider-Man 1 and 2 from like the original get-go at Sony in 2000.
Yeah, he did the original run of Spider-Man.
Yeah. The film will co-star Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff and will tie directly into her Disney Plus series that we just talked about, as well as the series Loki, making it the first MCU film to directly tie into any television series. It's weird that it's pushed to the end. Like, I had it on my list because it was supposed to come after WandaVision.
Yeah, it was originally listed May 7th, 2021.
Yeah, and then after that, you were going to get the Loki series.
Yes.
But now it's not.
Well, Disney does what it wants.
But to me, this, you know what? There's probably a good reason it got pushed to the end. This is the movie that will set up your next big baddie. If you're going to have an Avengers movie, an Avengers level movie, this is the movie to do it, because now you're dealing with time and the multiverse. Which, if we got our hopes and we get Kang the Conqueror, this is a good way to bring it in.
That's true, but I already thought they set up the new evil villain with Captain Marvel, with the fact that Secret Wars could possibly be the new plot line.
That would be badass. I forgot that
Because
was an option.
I mean, you got the Skrulls, who they made, which I don't think they're going to do Secret Wars anymore because they made them so
They're good.
they're
Like,
they're like puppy dogs.
yeah, you sympathize
They're
for them.
like, you won't have Super Skrull, which is super upsetting.
Unless the scrolls we were introduced to are a faction that's not directly tied to the warmongering side.
Maybe, but who knows? I mean, who knows what this multiverse of madness does? Even if it doesn't bring in Kang, it could bring in a new set of Skrull, because this multiverse I heard was supposed to start with somehow tying in the mutants, tying in the Fantastic Four into Marvel again.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a cheap way of doing it by just saying multiverse and throwing whatever we want.
Well, the crazy thing about this movie to begin with, Scott Derrickson, who did the original Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
had already wrote a direct sequel to
Oh,
the
did he?
original Doctor Strange, which obviously probably had nothing to do with what they're at now. And
No,
then
probably not.
in October, they brought in Jade Bartlett to rewrite the film. And that's where we got to where we are now. And Derrickson's, he's no longer in it. That's where they got into the conflict with him, where he's not directing it, and then now Sam Raimi's coming in because it's slightly going to be a horror film. And there's a guy who could do horror slash comedy. It's Sam Raimi with the Evil Dead franchise.
True, which is not gonna. I don't know if it's gonna be the first Marvel horror though, because people are talking about how Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness is gonna be the first horror movie. But I, you saw the trailer for Morbius.
Yeah, and at least from that, it looks like it ties into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, considering they had Michael Keaton's Vulture show up. So it's like, what's going on? Because they keep saying that, okay, anything they do outside of Spider-Man is not directly tied in, and then all of a sudden, oh, here's Michael Keaton as Vulture.
Yeah,
What?
and then they tied it into Venom as well, which that's where I was getting at. Where Andy Serkis is the director of Venom: Let There Be Carnage, which is the sequel. Which they're gonna They've even showed pictures of the Marvel Spider-Man in that,
Mm-hmm.
the MCU Spider-Man.
And which they should. I think, to me, and I always liked this, and I had this idea before they went and bought Fox. Let Fox do your mutant movies. You have way too much on your plate now. Just like work with them. Tell them like this is what we want to get to, but you can keep making X-Men movies because
Yeah,
we'll never get to it.
you already have too much going on your plate as it is. But I mean, Fox has kind of dropped the ball a little bit with some of those.
Yeah, they rushed it because they knew they were losing the rights, and then Disney bought them anyway.
Yeah,
And that's how we got that abysmal Fantastic Four movie.
I haven't watched it yet, and I will not watch it yet. It's the
Good,
same thing with the Avatar movie. I haven't watched it yet. I will not watch it.
good call on the Fantastic Four one because I watched it and I want that time back.
Dude, I got super excited because the thing looked so cool.
He looked better than the one that was in the earlier ones, right?
Yes. He didn't look like he was just wearing a rock costume. No, he looked
Yeah.
actually like he was built of rocks.
Although I still would have been cool with Michael Chiklis. Should have kept
Oh my
Michael
god.
Chiklis.
Yes.
But back to Phase 4.
Sorry, sorry.
No, I do the same. I'm the one who keeps directing us off the tracks. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is now pushed to the end, which to me means it has bigger implications in this film, and bigger build-up because you're also going to get Loki before this. I thought, at least in my mind, or at least the way they announced it, I thought it was WandaVision tied you up to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was the thing, and then the aftermath would have been Loki. It now seems like Loki is going to tie into it as well. So even though we're not going to get Doctor Strange's solo film until 2022, there's a good chance he still shows up on Disney Plus, and he seems like the type of actor that would do it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, but it is strange just looking at IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 4 confirmed cast members, and that is Chawet Ejiofor. I don't know how to say his name, but the dude who plays Mordo.
Oh,
You've got
okay.
Benedict Cumberbatch, Elizabeth Olsen, and Benedict Wong. Those are the only 4 that are actually confirmed to be in this. So, like, whether or not Hiddleston will be there, is still up for grabs.
That's true. I think there's a lot kept under wraps, and then unfortunately, especially Marvel has proven in the past that IMDb is they'll put things on there to put things on there. I don't think we're gonna get Modor at all,
Me
which is a
Mordo.
shame because they were clearly building something to him to be Strange's next.
Well, in the comics, he is like literally Strange's nemesis. Like he is the dude who
Yeah,
constantly comes into conflict with him.
yeah, he's Cap's Red Skull, that
Yeah,
kind of equivalent. But I feel like they're using the Doctor Strange movie to tee up so much more stuff and to realign their universe.
which I'm perfectly fine with because that just leaves another Doctor Strange movie to happen with Mordo in it,
Mm-hmm.
which gives me more content to love.
Oh, for sure. And to me, there's a lot more to tell with Doctor Strange. But moving on in Phase 4, one that was just kind of announced, I guess, semi recently, but will be coming out in November of 2021, is the untitled Spider Man Far From Home sequel. Yay! Um, and that's a big one because now everybody knows Peter Parker is Spider Man. And there is so much speculation, and that's why I'm glad we're going to talk about this, of who could show up in this movie. A, to clear Peter's name, or B, to represent Peter, and all that jazz. So we'll just start with it. Daredevil. Do you think he's going to be in it?
Yes, he's gonna do A and B. He's gonna represent Peter, and then he's gonna clear his name by putting on donning the costume.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be Charlie Cox?
I
He,
hope so. He did a fantastic job. I
oh,
mean, I wouldn't put it past Disney to rid their ties with what happened with the Netflix series, but God, I hope it's Charlie Cox. He did such a good job.
well, the cool thing with the Netflix series is I didn't mind most of the actors. He said, cringing.
Are you saying
Um,
that because of what's her name?
I don't like the what's her name to play Jessica Jones.
Yeah, me
It felt
neither.
forced, and it's like you're not a bad actress. What the hell is happening? Um,
And they had such a good actor for the villain.
yeah, oh my god! And they killed him. Damn it. Um, but I think with the four of them, the stories that they told with them aren't damning enough to the point where they can't save the character. Like if you brought Charlie Cox in for the Spider-Man movie, it's cool that he went head to head with Kingpin, but at the
Oh,
same time, he can easily just transition to this. Like that, yeah, that could have all have been taking place while everything else was happening. It doesn't have
I
to
mean,
not
they
happen.
in continuity. I mean, it would actually be kind of weird for them not to be in there because they're technically still part of the universe. But even in the show, they made callbacks to what happened in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but it's also not upon Marvel to do what they did to, uh,
Rhodey,
oh, what's his name?
uh, War Machine,
Yeah, first first year actor there, nix him for the next movie and bring in somebody else.
and not to mention Blade. That to me is a sign that they're gonna ignore their Netflix stuff
Yep.
because the guy they casted for Blade was in Luke Cage as the villain.
Oh, he was.
He was
But I mean,
Cottonmouth.
who was wasn't the one lady in Iron Man or
Yep,
Captain America Civil War also in
yep.
Luke
She
Cage?
she was she was one of the main antagonists in Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Which I mean, you could play that off. That could still be the same person. Um, but the Cottonmouth and Blade thing that'll be a stretch. Like, oh, they look similar. I hope they
Multiverse.
don't.
Multiverse.
Yeah,
Ha!
and I personally love the actor they chose for Luke Cage. I would really, and they left it on
Oh,
such a cliffhanger for Luke. That's the only problem with Luke Cage. I think that the plans they had for the next Luke Cage season would not tie in well for what Marvel would want to do.
no, I mean I could see them making it a spin-off TV series and just making it Heroes for Hire,
I would
where it's
kill for
just
that,
him and Danny Rand.
and not to mention John Barenthal as the Punisher. If you can't have
Oh,
Thomas Jane, that's the man I want.
dude, legitimately great. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing. Do you think possibly he shows up in this?
Well, technically, if you believe what Kevin Feige already says, he already has. He was the one who was driving that big rig or the 18-wheeler truck that was helping Nick Fury escape.
Oh.
So if you believe what they said, then the Punisher is in there. Whether or not it's him or not is another question. But the Punisher is still part of the MCU.
That would be fantastic. Especially if somehow he gets hired to take out Peter Parker. Like they did the comic run.
Yes.
Which it's kind of hard because they've already established that he's a reluctant hero, and to take out a guy like a kid, that would be a tough sell to the MCU of like, oh, he can redeem himself. It's okay.
Nah, no, he just did.
Yeah. But that's the biggest thing that at least the aftermath of the awesome J.K. Simmons outing him as Peter Parker.
I'm excited to see how they try to solve this issue. Whether or not it be some new way, or if they could go the traditional comic book route.
So
I mean, I'm kind of hoping for a new story. Like, I'm hoping they give me something else. I don't want to see what happened in the comics already.
yeah,
Give me
so
something else.
I'm kind of curious if that whole cutscene at the end was Disney's FU to Sony of like, oh, you're not going to come back for a third movie? Well, boom, everybody knows Peter Parker Spider-Man. Good luck, have fun with that. You figure it out.
Until what? Tom Holland decided to call the Sony execs and Robert Downey Jr. and was like crying or something. Got the movie brought back.
Just like, how do you? Sony's not good enough to figure this out.
Please, I want to get rich.
I don't want to get Andrew Garfield. I want to have a third movie.
Yo. Wait, tell me this real quick. Just the Spider-Man thing.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, better Peter Parker, better Spider-Man.
Excellent Spider-Man. Too cocky for Peter.
Tom Holland, best of both worlds.
He's a perfect blend. And I think Tobey was a great Peter Parker, but terrible Spider-Man.
Oh, Tobey was a great Peter Parker.
He didn't have that wit, and that might not have been his fault. That could have been the writing. But
dude, I always forget how in shape he really was.
Yeah,
that movie.
So
like Tobey Maguire, nah, he was flubby. Nah, man, the guy had a six-pack. I wish.
Mm-hmm. So in a world, I've seen these pictures float around, and we're still talking Phase 4 because this could be Phase 4. Who knows? It's probably not, but a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse type live action.
Yeah, no, I don't think that'll happen.
Ah, man. How awesome would that be, though, if you got all three to play a part?
That would be great. But, I mean, since you do have Sam Raimi doing the Doctor Strange, I wouldn't not expect a multiverse where you see the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man pop up somewhere.
Oh, and you will definitely see Bruce Campbell, because that's what he does.
But then also, in this whole thing, they already announced that they're going to do a second Into the Spider-Verse.
See, that's interesting. Well, that movie was a hit, and it gets to follow Miles rather than Peter, which I think is huge. Yeah. Sucks that Miles isn't going to get like a big screen presence when it comes to live action, but it could down the road.
True either. They teased them in what was it? Homecoming? No, Far.
Well, they teased them in Homecoming with Donald Glover's character.
But then at the end, for the end credit scene, there was a secondary scene where he was sitting there calling Miles.
Yeah. So it was.
I mean, to say that he won't be there, whether it be Phase 4 or farther.
I imagine it's whenever they lose Holland. Although I can't ever imagine them losing Holland. I feel like Tom Holland would do this until the day he died.
Oh yeah, Tom Holland's already signed on for another 40 years.
Yeah, he's like, it's okay. I don't need money. I just like being him.
So don't pay me. I'll spoil all the secrets.
So we have a couple more projects left in Phase 4 before we wrap up today's episode. And one of them we're going to jump back to TV is Loki. So as we all know, the last time we saw Loki, he died in Infinity War. But then we saw him again in Endgame, circa 2012, and he changed the timeline by slipping away after the events of Avengers 1. So this is where I think you open up the gates for Kang. Like hardcore, because there's a...
Oh, you think he's going to be the antagonist for Loki?
I think he would be introduced in Loki. Okay. Which would be funny, because that means this is the second big baddie that Loki's brought to the Avengers to face.
That is true.
since he fucking tipped off Thanos. Um, but there's the very brief clip you get of Loki and the Loki series. It looks like he's in a prison. So like he's been captured, and somebody online speculated that it was part of like the Time Police or whatever the hell the version is in Marvel, which would in theory trigger Kang. And the more fire to the or the fuel to the fire would be the fact that Kang is the great grandson of Reed Richards, and
Yeah.
he comes over with the Fox deal, so they could do it. But what do you hope to see from Loki?
So like the first thing I saw was that he was supposed to be entering different timelines
Mm-hmm.
through that entire thing and like messing with time itself. So like I'm hoping like you get to go back and to see like even a Black Widow. Like I mean, you go back in time, you see Black Widow for like a split second, and Loki just like, uh-huh, and then just moving on,
Mm-hmm.
or somehow pushing things into effect, like maybe steering different world events happening. Like he's in Hitler's ear, he's in Stalin's ear, he's pushing different back world events just to see what he can manipulate.
Yeah, and I think that it was mentioned that in the series Loki's going to use that tesseract to travel through the time to alter human history, which could, like you said, bring in like, oh, there's Black Widow. There, here he is in World War II, fucking with Cap, whatever the case may be.
Here's like, oh, you somehow bring back RDJ. Like here's a Tony Stark before he was Iron Man.
Yeah,
Like,
and
here he was when he was an arrogant little kid.
and the interesting part is you're dealing with a Loki, not the reformed Loki we saw at the end of Thor Ragnarok. You're dealing with the,
I
the
have daddy issues.
yeah,
Loki.
and the conqueror, if you will, the guy who wants to be king of something. Because I don't feel he doesn't learn his lesson until Thor Ragnarok. Because even in Thor Ragnarok, he still has the mischief of turning over Thor before Thor actually smartened up.
I mean, he doesn't really like he doesn't do it until Hela just was like, hey, I'm destroying Asgard, so
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to find something else to want to rule now. So he just accepts the fact that he's not gonna rule anything.
Yeah, I like to think Korg had a good talk with him as they were coming to save everybody.
Hey, got this ship over here. You want to jump in?
Hey, brother, maybe you should stop doing me the dick thing that you do. It's just stop being a dick.
Revolution! Yay!
But Loki's set to debut in early 2021 and will consist of 6 episodes, and it's part of Phase 4 and will tie into the Doctor Strange movies. So now, to me, this is going to show that, A, this is going to be a preamble to Doctor Strange rather than a consequence of it. The other interesting note I have to it, in January of this year, Owen Wilson joined the cast.
I just saw that. I just went to it and saw it. Wow.
Yeah, wow. Remember see the God of Mischief over there? Wow.
Oh, so they have a Minuteman. I'm assuming that's. I don't actually know the time police, but that could be what they're called, the Minuteman.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they play this out, and especially if he's terrorizing the timeline. They apparently casted Sophia Di Martino. I don't know who she is, but she was in an unspecified role, and the rumor is it's a female or incarnation of Loki. I like
Do you
to think
think she could be the Enchantress?
that's what I'm hoping.
Oh yes,
And randomly, Carl Urban shows back up as the Executioner.
dude, he was fantastic until you just saw how much of a bitch he was.
They made him a super bitch. Like, oh,
He's not a bitch in the comics whatsoever. He's
no.
like legitimately like, I hate you all. I love her. I hate everybody else.
Yeah, he would do anything for the Enchantress.
Yeah.
But, you know, hey, I think there's a lot of things they're not telling us, and it'd be an interesting little surprise if he did pop up.
That would be good.
There are other television series that are slated for Disney Plus. I don't know if they actually have a timeline. Like the other 4 that I have on my list are to be announced in 2022. So to me, that could be part of Phase 5. I'll talk about two last ones, and I'll save the other 3 for down the road. Okay. We'll talk about the What If series, which I don't think will directly intertwine with the MCU, but experiences the question of what if. It's narrated by the guy who plays Bernard in Westworld. I can't think of his name.
Oh yeah, hold on.
But they've already greenlit it for 2 seasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so season 1 will come out middle of 2021, and then for 10 episodes, and then it was greenlit for season 2 for another 10 episodes. So it's really what if is going. It's a comic book run, but it's essentially saying, okay, what if Peggy Carter was Captain America? What if T'Challa?
Zombie Cap.
Yeah, and like the zombies timeline, that'd be interesting to follow. And like, what if T'Challa was Star Lord, which I thought was weird, because why would
I mean, if we look at the cast list right now, you literally have Peggy Carter coming back, you have Black Panther coming back, you have Thanos coming back, you have Howard Stark's Dominic Cooper, the younger version,
Mhm.
you have Michael Douglas as Ant Man, you have Karen Gillan as Nebula, you have Jeff Goldblum as Grandmaster, you have Sean Gunn as Kraglin, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, you have Hiddleston as Loki, you got Jejmon Hushan as Korath, Nick Fury, Armin Zola, Eric Killmonger, Dum Dum Dugan,
uh,
Jane Foster, Clint Barton, Yondu Udonta, Paul Rudd's Ant Man, Bruce Banner, Bucky Barnes, Taserface, which is great. I love that. Um, Dr. Abraham Ursinski, which is Stanley Tucci, Korg, and The Watcher are all listed for like one episode each in this. So like you're gonna have storylines with they didn't like they spared no expense by getting back every single actor too. Whether or not it's all going to be animated, but they're going to be voice actors.
That's probably why they got a season 2 greenlit, because like nobody's able to do anything right now.
Yeah.
Because there's also the rumor that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be reprising his role as Tony Stark. Goldblum let it slip.
Wait, hold on. I just missed that. You like cut out for me for whatever reason.
Oh, sorry. The Goldblum let it slip that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be doing Tony Stark again.
No.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm excited for it because it's animated, obviously, but it gives you a world of what if, and what if series is always like everybody asks the question what if all the time. So this will be interesting to see how they handle that.
Oh yeah.
There's some weird ones that I'm not 100% cool with. Like I don't really care if T'Challa was Star Lord. It just T'Challa's always been T'Challa.
He's always been a dick too.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole Peggy Carter as Captain Britain or whatever she'll end up being. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% excited for it, but cool. I feel like they gave Peggy Carter way too much, but that's just me. And I'm sure the people in the MCU world will skewer me.
No, I mean to an extent, I'm sure it's that PC culture. The whole that one scene in Endgame where you see all the female heroes
Yeah,
somehow stop fighting everybody who they were fighting to team up real quick.
to protect Peter.
Yeah, you're playing a part here to like play to an audience instead of playing to a continuity.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure Peggy Carter, even though she's a great character and is the founder of Shield in the first place, you had to somehow give her that strong female lead.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I don't know if you made this movie 20 years ago, like this whole MCU, if that would have ever happened for her. She
Oh
would have
God,
probably been written off and never revisited again.
no, yeah, she would never. It would have. Her importance would have faded.
Yeah. So the last Disney Plus TV series that I would consider Phase 4, because it was announced originally with the Phase 4 stuff, is Hawkeye, which will follow Jeremy Renner training the next Hawkeye, which is kind of... it's exciting that he's going to get his own TV series, but it kind of sucks as well, because I feel like Hawkeye got the raw end of the deal when it came to the MCU.
He always got the raw end of the deal.
Yeah, but like he's such a great character in the comics and even in the cartoons. So,
Yeah, I mean, you got somebody who they turned from somebody who had abnormal strength and perfect accuracy
mm-hmm.
to somebody who's just now normal.
Yeah, and he was a mindless drone in the first Avengers that worked for Loki. The second Avengers, They gave you a little bit more backstory to him. I don't know how I feel about him having the family out the gate because I liked the Playboy, like essentially the Tony Stark version of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't even in Infinity War. Civil War, it's like they took him off the bench just to push a plot. And Endgame, he was Ronin by that point.
Which would have been a great I would have rather watched an entire story arc of Ronin because the guy is a ruthless killer in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, at this point, they're training. They're starting up the new Avengers. They're starting up a younger squad.
Yep.
Like you no longer are going to have. I mean, to the extent you're not going to have Iron Man anymore. And in my ultimate hopes, is that Shuri will take the mantle of Ironheart, which is
Mm-hmm.
a female Black Iron Man, she's already considered the smartest person in the MCU.
Oh, hands down. I mean, she made the joke when she was taking apart Vision.
Oh yeah. So I mean, you're starting off with already coming down to a younger set of cast, which is kind of smart to set up a younger group that you can go 20 more years with and follow through their ages as actors anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It'll definitely be interesting to see. Because I mean, Black Widow's doing it, and now Hawkeye's doing it. So it's like, oh, we're already training our replacements. It's like I feel like they didn't do much with you guys to begin with.
I don't need a younger Hawkeye if I'm going to be legit. Like I don't want another Hawkeye.
No.
They have so many other characters that they could have so much good fun with.
Mm-hmm. Easily. Which brings us.
Pick out the. Yeah, good.
Which it brings us to another movie that's kind of doing the same thing, and our final talk for Phase 4, and that's Thor Ragnarok or Thor: Love and Thunder,
Yes.
which was revealed that Natalie Portman's returning. Yay!
Where was she?
Yeah,
We don't know.
I want that to be the first 20 minutes of the film. What were you doing this entire fucking time?
She was getting over her breakup with Thor because no, I broke up with her. She didn't break up with
Yeah.
me.
So she's taking on the mantle of the female incarnation that is Thor. So if they do it similar to the comics, she better be dying of cancer.
Yeah.
Gonna leave it at that. They're bringing back Thompson to play Valkyrie again, who is now the new king of Asgard, who will begin searching for her new queen. This, I can't believe I'm reading like this. Taika is coming back to direct and will be playing Korg. And it was announced in January of 2020 that Christian Bale will be the villain.
Who do you think he's gonna be?
I hope he's Batman. I really just want to be like, I'm Batman. Thor's like, what?
Oh God.
Or he's just Christian Bale. And he just, oh, step into my scene! And just starts yelling at him or whatever the fuck he did.
Well, the thing that I think he may become is, weirdly enough, I heard that in this one they're going to try to bring back one of Thor's Greek relatives.
Huh.
And he's going to be Ares.
That would be interesting.
Or not Ares, Hercules. Sorry, I'm an idiot. So Christian Bale is Hercules.
Which then, in theory, could keep Christian Bale in the MCU because Hercules eventually joins the Avengers.
Yeah, but he's an arrogant. Well, even in Greek mythology, he's arrogant as all hell.
Oh, for sure. So is Christian Bale. So it works.
Is he?
Oh, I've heard he's a dick.
Oh, don't screw my view of Christian Bale.
I'm sorry. He's Batman.
No, Dark Knight trilogy. That's
Yeah.
one of the best superhero trilogies out there.
It could have been the Dark Knight 4, but, someone's a dick. Anyway, it was also teased in March of 2020 by Vin Diesel, the heart and soul of the MCU, that the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be incorporated into the film, which should make sense because Thor left with them at the end of Endgame.
I am Groot? Is that what he said?
He went, I am Groot. And then James Gunn translated it like, yeah, we're lending out the Guardians to Thor.
Oh, nice.
But there's just so much happening in that movie.
Yeah, I don't know how you're gonna. I mean, it might be like a post-credit scene or a beginning credit scene where they're like, "Hey Thor, we're dropping you off here. We'll be back." And then like that's because I heard that the Guardians 3 movie isn't gonna involve Thor whatsoever.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if like the beginning part of this movie is just gonna be like, "Hey, Peter's just gonna be like, look out the window real quick," and hit the eject button and just eject him out
and
because he's super jealous.
leaves his ass back on Earth. We got shit to do.
And then yeah, it's gonna be a movie. That movie is probably. It should be the end. It should be the end of Phase 4, which phases into Phase 5.
Yeah. So the big question I have about this movie, because obviously they're teeing up Thor to just be an all-female cast. Um, do you think
Yeah.
this is the end of Chris Hemsworth as Thor?
No. I'm pretty sure his contract was extended even further because I think he's gonna still be a part of the Guardians.
That would be fantastic.
Because I don't think, weirdly enough, in my view, I don't believe that Thor is gonna give up on being the king for much longer. Like right now, he needs to discover himself because he did the discovering in Ragnarok that he's not the Lord of Thunder. He's not the Lord of Hammers. He's the Lord of Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he needs to rediscover how to rule again. Like he kind of had that idea, but now he just needs to put it into action. Like, and he's leaving it in someone's hands who he knows is capable of keeping the peace.
Status quo.
Yeah. So right now, like, do I think that he can come back? Like Chris Hemsworth gets old again, and then we get old King Thor, which would be great.
I think this is out of the original Avengers. He's probably the most willing. I also think he knows where his bread is buttered, whereas other people get a little arrogant and think I can go do other things and they can't.
Who would think that?
Doolittle. What? I'm sorry. Did that come out? But it's interesting because again, okay, so they're going to do this whole movie where Natalie Portman picks up the mantle. Do you think Natalie Portman sticks around?
No.
Yeah, neither did I. And that's why I don't know why they're fucking doing it. I think the only reason that she came back is because they said they would do it.
I think they're doing it because that's what culture is nowadays.
Yeah.
Culture is, hey, Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
We're gonna make you all female.
And she pissed and moaned in the second one that wasn't a female director.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, the second one wasn't that great anyway. Did you really want a female director tied to it? So.
I mean, you have the whole Captain Marvel, which I will not say whether or not I liked it or I didn't. I did not. It was just. It seemed like it was a whole bunch of, hey, we're not sexist.
I see. I was a big fan of her comic book run, and the Marvel thing upset me a little bit. And I feel like Sam Jackson saved the movie.
The scroll thing upset me the most.
Yeah,
Out of
that's
everything in that movie, like you're portraying a picture of like, oh, we're just trying to get home. No, you are one of the most horrible races in the entire universe who can morph into people, and you're just trying to get home. Come on.
Yeah, that twist was like, okay, so there'll never be a fucking threat.
Which is why, like, even though they set up an idea for Secret Wars, I don't think it'll ever come to fruition.
Still, the one thing that hasn't been answered yet is what the hell's Nick Fury doing in space? Are we getting Agents of S.W.O.R.D.?
Would be dope.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think they're setting it up to go more bigger. And you know who's bigger than Kang and who's bigger than Thanos?
Galactus.
You mean the big mushroom cloud?
Wasn't he in Green Lantern? He was yellow in that.
No, that was
Parallaxis?
Prolaxis, yeah. Galactus was the mushroom cloud from the Fantastic Four sequel.
Yeah, I'm assuming the same guy that pitched that for the Fantastic Four sequel went and pitched it to Green Lantern. Like, hey, you know what's threatening? A really big fucking cloud.
I think Green Lantern just all around was like, hey, you know how we can screw up even worse? We gotta look at what Fantastic Four did. Just
how? And the thing that drives me nuts is how do you screw that up when you have such a great Sinestro? Like, you have built this fantastic Sinestro and you drop the ball.
Jordan.
Yeah, like you dropped the ball. You had a really good cast there.
every single Green Lantern in that was spot on.
Mm-hmm.
You have Ryan Reynolds, who is a Hal Jordan sarcastic asshole.
Yep.
He's a better Deadpool, but great Hal Jordan if you really need him to be. Your
Mm-hmm.
Sinestro was just fantastic, and you still wrote it bad.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
talk to Ryan Reynolds' agent and be like, "Why did you let him agree to this? You read the script, right?
That's what you gotta ask Ryan. How far in did you read before you signed on?
He
Did you
just
get to
wanted
the
to be
part?
enticed.
Did you
He
get
just
to?
wanted to be enticed."
Did you get to the part where you met the Green Lantern Corps and that's where you stopped? Because you should have read the goddamn end.
Did you read the part where your entire suit is going to be CGI?
And you're fighting a fucking clown.
All right, back to Marvel.
Back to Phase 4. Well, that kind of wraps up everything in a nice tight bow. Phase 4 is temporarily postponed because of COVID. The first thing we're supposed to get is Black Widow. I mean, in theory, Falcon and Winter Soldier could drop before that comes out. Unless
Yes.
they're waiting for something in Black Widow that prevents Falcon and Winter Soldier to come out.
Wait, as I'm looking at some things, I did see that there is Blade is apparently announced as Phase 4, and so is Fantastic Four.
Really?
Whether or not that's true, or if that's, the internet just trying to be wishful thinkers.
I think Feige really screwed himself by not having an Avengers movie cap it off, because that's how you know a phase is done. When the Avengers movie comes up, you're towards the end of that phase.
Well, yeah, but there's no Avengers movie. There's no Avengers movie that's like, hey, this is the proverbial end, which I think he's leaving himself an out to add more into Phase 4 if he wants.
Yep, or Disney going out of business.
Oh, come on.
Hey, this pandemic's been hard on people. There was a rumor floating around for like a month that Apple was going to buy them out. Somebody overextended themselves on Disney Plus.
I mean, who? Yeah, 25 million per episode.
Yeah.
Which is probably why they're holding off the release of Black Widow. Is
Yeah.
because in the end they need to make some type of money out of this.
Yeah, $6.99 a month's not going to cover it.
Which I'm waiting for like the new price when they're going to be like, "Hey, we're going up to $15.
Yeah.
You'll pay it, right?" And I'm going to sit there and go,
Yeah.
just send them the GIF of Fry with the money saying, "Take my money."
Absolutely. So what we do at the end of every Podern Nerd is just kind of, what do you got going on? Plug us. Tell us what you're doing. Shameful whoring.
Ooh, I am a shameful whore. I am going to be still doing my Twitch with the Dace Man and Friends every Wednesday. I'm going to start to be playing Detroit Becoming Human, which so far is an incredibly big story. I am dumbfounded by the things that I've seen so far. But other than that, sitting here working, got a new freelance job of making t-shirts. So when that becomes final, I put out my first design. I'll definitely let you guys know so you guys can check out some Sixers gear.
Aw, snap.
But other than that, that's about it. That's about what's going on in this COVID life of mine.
Well, and here's the fun part where you have to listen to me drone on about all kinds of shit that we say we do that we don't really do. Follow us on Twitter at The Dace Man Show. Follow me on Twitter at The Dace Man. Like us on Facebook.com/The Dace Man Show. And subscribe to us on Spotify. Podern Nerd, we're there. Jersey Bullies, we're there. Go over to thedacemanshow.com that collects all this stuff and puts in a nice little package for you to get to. And then last but not least, make sure you give us a follow over at twitch.tv/DaceMan and Friends, where I stream, Jarrett streams, Gibby streams, we all stream for ice cream. That's pretty much it. So thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Podern Nerd. Thank you, Jarrett, for stopping by and talking Marvel Phase 4 with me.
Smash it.
So for the few, for the proud, and for the Daystacular, thank you guys for tuning in, and stay nerdy.